Welcome to our community. Susie Thomas visiting with you this morning. We're so happy to have as our guest Whitney Prather. She's from Absolute Hospice. Good morning, Whitney.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing great. So happy to have you here.
Thank you so much.
Tell us a little bit, first of all, for anyone who has not heard of Absolute Hospice, all about you.
Yes. Well, it's Absolute Home Health and Hospice. And thank you again for having me on the show. At Absolute Home Health and Hospice, we provide care to people dealing with chronic illness and terminal diagnosis. We provide home health care, palliative and hospice care, and family support services. So it's a really great way for us to help our patients live well and comfortably for as long as possible.
When you're talking about home health, and are we really always talking about end of life, or are we talking about people who want to stay in their homes while they're dealing with some kind of a health issue?
The latter. We're talking about people who have a chronic illness, but they can receive medical care. And there's actually two types of home care. There's home health, and then there's home care. Home health care services are provided in your home. They're medical and social services that occur in the home setting, but they're medical. Home care or private duty care is actually it's non-medical, so that's more of like your grooming, your running of errands, your medication reminders, feeding and feeding tube assistance, that type of thing.
Okay, that's my very next question. What exact services are we talking about? Beds and things like that. Help us understand what kinds of services are provided.
Okay, well, we're going to start with home health services. Again, that is medical care provided by a team of skilled professionals to help a person get well. It's appropriate for a person who has just gone through a surgery, a hospital stay, or a doctor's visit. And the type of services that person will receive is medication administrative. I mean, think about a therapist coming in. Think about a social worker coming in, a nurse coming in. They're going to help with oxygen use and monitoring. If they do need to assess that there needs to be a bed that comes in, you know, they'll help you with that plan of care. They'll help you with catheter and wound and therapy care and things of that nature. On the private duty side, the non-medical side, that is going to be care administered by a caregiver like a nurse aide. It's not going to be that skilled person coming in because maybe your plan of care doesn't really require that. Mm-hmm. So the things that, you know, a caregiver might think that you need around the house, that's what's going to happen. So again, like that foot, finger, nail care, grooming and dressing, any assistance along those lines.
And those are people that don't necessarily have a degree in any kind of medical field.
They have gone through training. So like a caregiver or a nurse assistant, they've gone through training to be that. So you do have to have some knowledge and some education behind you, but you're not a nurse, an LPN, or a degreed nurse.
So even just being able to give a person their medication every day, that needs to be a nurse, correct?
It does. Now, this can be under the private duty care or the home care medication reminder, certainly. But if you need someone to help you with a medication administration, that's going to be home health care services.
Okay.
It's so confusing.
Now,
So
you're
really
doing a great job of helping us determine between the two.
Yes, I just really want to clear up that. A lot of people call us and, they're just confused. So I always try to say one is medical, one is non-medical.
Mm-hmm. And what you're talking about is medical.
Well, I'm talking that we can actually do both.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Home health care services, we can do the medical and we can do the non-medical. It just really is dependent upon what that person needs.
So tell us, how do you determine that? Do you visit first with someone and then say, okay, it looks like this is what you're going to be needing, and then you're able to outline what you will be providing for them?
Yeah, and a lot of times it looks like a referral source coming to our agency, talking to our team about how we can help a patient who's already they already have a personal care physician. So a physician will refer to one of, our team, usually when we talk to people who are interested in private duty or home care, it's usually a caregiver who's caring for a parent or a loved one. And you don't need to have a physician telling you, hey, we want to start this plan of care with you. Now, for home health care services, you do need a physician to actually certify, hey, we need to go this route with you. And so there's some requirements that Medicare really wants you to follow. There's some certifications that you need to have. Not certifications is actually the wrong word. Guidelines is the better word. Mm-hmm. And I can go into those if you're interested.
Well, my very next question is, does insurance cover this? And how far will insurance take you or Medicare take you as far as being able to afford these kinds of great services?
Yeah, most people do want to know how to pay for home health care services. Yes. And Medicare covers actually 100% of the home health care service when 4 of the following requirements that I'm going to give you are actually true. So you have to be homebound, and that just means that, your physician certifies that you have difficulty leaving without the assistance of help or an actual device like a cane, a wheelchair, crutches. So that's number 1. Number 2 is if you actually need skilled care or skilled therapy services. That's home health care.
Okay. And who says you need it? Your physician must say, yes, they absolutely need this.
Yes. Like, hey, we want you to get some physical or occupational therapy. We think that this can happen in the home. Number 3 is your physician determines and certifies. So that's the requirement. A family member can't just say, hey, I think you need skilled nursing in your home. No, your physician actually has to determine that you're homebound, that you need skilled nursing or a therapy service. It's a plan of care. And your physician really is a part of the process when you come into our care. They remain a part of this process, which is really comforting for patients, yes, and clients, because, they know their physicians, they build relationships with them. And then the last one is that, of course, the home health agency that you select has to be certified as a Medicare provider. So that's kind of the given.
When we get into hospice, then, that's another completely different arena. Talk to us about what you provide there.
Yeah, I think a lot of people know what hospice is, but it's always kind of it's a little bit alarming to hear some of the myths that people still have. So I'm really happy to talk about this. Absolute Home Health and Hospice, we provide support to patients with life-limiting illnesses. Those myths, a lot of people think hospice is a place. Hospice is not a place. It's really a philosophy. It's a holistic approach that allows a terminally ill person to experience his or her final days with dignity, with comfort, with peace. It addresses certain areas like physical, spiritual, emotional needs, and it really helps the patient's families. Like, a lot of people think hospice is just for a person who is ill. It's really for the families. I can't tell you how many times families talk to me and they're like, oh my gosh, this was invaluable to us. When you guys came into our life, we could breathe again. So,
well, I think also it's very tough for a family when someone says it's time for hospice. That itself is alarming.
It is.
Because that does signal end of life and a big change coming up for everyone. You start to grieve maybe even at that point. How do you work through that with families? What do you provide? Because you're right, what you're doing is absolutely necessary for the family as much as for the ill person. But how do you work with the families themselves and allow them to breathe again?
Yeah, and this is where our social workers, our whole team is really, truly dynamic. But our social workers really come into play with this because they really focus on normalizing those feelings of grief. And we have bereavement and grief coordinators who help as well. So it's really a team effort. And what we do is we want to make sure that you are experiencing your feelings appropriately. The worst thing that anyone could say is, this is the amount of time that you need to grieve. No, get into your feelings, feel these feelings. So we really focus on, normalizing those feelings and really just meeting the patient family wherever they're at.
It's so interesting to hear you say that. I remember going through the loss of someone, how I remember saying to somebody, I think you just have to let yourself feel however you're feeling.
It's true. You do.
Well, that's very affirming to hear you say that, but I didn't just make that up.
No, you didn't. No,
but
Susie,
you
you're onto
do.
something.
There's got to be no right way to grieve. You just got to let yourself feel how you feel.
You do. And everyone is so different. Everyone is so different on how they feel and how they deal with and process their emotions, that you really just have to let them. It runs its own course. It's really a journey.
It can be years later and it'll come out of nowhere.
Yes.
So you really can't say to someone a year later, okay, time to move on now. Yeah.
Yes. That honestly, you guys, that's the worst thing that anyone could ever say, is that, hey, there's a time to grieve, and your time is up. No.
Your time is up.
So yeah, hospice truly boils down to quality of life at the end of life. Dame Cicely Saunders, the founder of the hospice movement, UK-based, she has a quote that we really embody, and it just says, "You matter because you are you, and you matter to the end of your life." And we really try to carry that.
Since you brought up things to say, how do you speak to someone who is at the end of their life? What are the correct things to say and things not to say? Or to their family, if you know that someone is dealing with this and they've got a very, very ill parent or something, what's the right thing to say and the wrong thing to say? I always want to know, what is the right thing to say? Because you hear yourself saying, oh, let me know if you need anything. And you mean it. But that is empty.
Exactly. I'm so glad that you brought this up, Susie.
Well, you brought it up. I'm just jumping on it.
Well, I think, I don't want anybody to get too robotic with anything like a prepared speech. I think the important thing is to be authentic and to be in your feelings, and this is a life situation that touches us all. So just be really real and, take your cues from the family. And one of the things that I always hear our team say, and what I really love that they address, is, you said, if you ever need anything, let me know. Well, that puts all of the responsibility on you to get back in touch with me.
Right.
So,
right.
Hey, I know you're going to need something. When can I come over to, clean up the house or to clean the dishes? Or I know you have to be hungry. Can I go grab you something to eat? It's putting the responsibility on you. Girl, I know that you need to relax. Next Saturday, are you free? Can we go get a pedicure? Like, that's how you put it on yourself, and not, because no one is going to reach out to you.
No, you never get that
You
call
never,
saying,
ever.
okay, remember how you said if I ever needed anything, I need something. No, that never happens.
That never happens.
I love what you're saying. What day can I bring your meal over?
Right.
Because it's coming.
Yes. And, let me just schedule something. Okay, you don't know right now, but I'm going to call you tonight at 7 o'clock, and you open up your calendar and you tell me when I can get on it. So just really assuring them. And if someone evades you, go back to them and ask them. I think that's the key. And put yourself in this situation. And we've all been in situations of grief where you just don't really know whether you're coming or going. Just revisit, just be a constant presence.
Well, and I think we also, need to be mindful of where our lives go on. This becomes their reality forever. So just to check back in on people after they've lost someone or are going through this, don't set it aside like you say, okay, your time is done now. Okay, I'm not done ministering to you yet. You're still my friend.
Right.
When can we? I love do the pedicure thing.
Right. And you know what? It is 2017. Most of us have smartphones. When you hop into your car and you're ready to leave, or when you have some downtime, get into your calendar on your smartphone and put a reminder, okay, I'm going to check in with Susie at this time. And then it's done.
Oh, that's good.
We're busy people. We forget to do things. And then there's no reason to not.
That is good stuff. We're speaking with Whitney Prather. She's from Absolute Home Health and Hospice.
Yes.
Let's get the whole name out there. And we do need to take a short break, but we're going to come back. When we do, we want to talk about maybe some volunteer opportunities. You are willing to accept volunteers, not just paid professional?
We're willing.
Let's talk about that when we come back after these words. You're listening to Our Community.